This video is a follow-on from the Vision Mixing Basics video in the NewTek TriCaster TC8000 series. If you haven't watched this yet, I suggest you check it out first. In this video, I'm discussing the background layer, keys, and ME buses. The program and preview section feeds a layer called background. This layer has 4 downstream keys or DSKs and 1 fade to black layer as sequential overlays. These DSKs can be full-frame images that completely cover the background layer, or can be scaled, cropped, and rotated into different sizes and shapes to be placed anywhere else on the frame, with the empty space behaving as an alpha or transparent layer. The fade to black layer is a complete overlay of black pixels and is useful for starting and ending shows, or possibly advert breaks when a separate video player is used. These DSKs can be any visual source on the TriCaster, live inputs, DDRs, GFX, or buffers. There are many uses for keys. You can overlay titles to identify the program or elements on screen. You can overlay graphic logos to identify the program. You could have a full-frame video or graphic splash screen to identify the program. Or you could have a picture-in-picture setup for a new style program. So let's take a look at the signal flow from our background layer all the way through to our fade to black layer. Your program and preview sources feed the background layer either by selecting the program source directly on the program source buttons, or by using the main section's T-bar, take, or auto buttons. This background layer is then overlaid by the 4 downstream keys. Downstream key 1 contains a full-frame 5fm.png file with an alpha background, which basically means its background is see-through. This is to be scaled down and put into the top right-hand corner of the screen. Downstream key 2 is also a full-frame image but with no alpha layer, and will be scaled down and used for a picture-in-picture in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Downstream key 3 is a full-frame PNG file with an alpha layer that can be used as is, showing the TriCaster logo on the bottom left side of the screen. DSK4 is a full-frame test image that will be used as is and cover all of the previous DSKs and background. Then we finally have our fade to black layer, which, when activated, will cover all of the previous layers, essentially making the screen black. So if we don't engage our fade to black layer, our program output will look something like this. This is all a bit over the top, as we won't want such a confusingly branded show, but it demonstrates the output signal flow and what the key's capabilities are. An ME bus is an internal bus that can select its own sources and mix them together to be used internally as another source within the mixer when selected on program or preview, or used externally if needed, which is set in the hardware configuration window. When used as a mix bus, it functions similar to the program preview structure of the main program output, with A/B rows in place of the program preview rows. When used as an effects bus, live mat, live set, tracking, hotspots, and time warp functionality is enabled. Each of the ME buses has its own background layer, 4 independent keys, and a fade to black layer, just like the main output of the TriCaster. The ME signal flow is exactly the same as the main section signal flow, except that this output can be fed back into the main section or any other ME as a unique source. So, your AB sources feed the background layer, either by selecting the A source directly on the A layer source buttons, or by using the ME section's T-bar, take, or auto buttons. The background layer is then overlaid by the 4 downstream keys in the same way as the program DSKs before. Then, we finally have our fade to black layer, which when activated will cover all of the previous layers, essentially making the ME output black. So as with our program, if we don't engage our fade to black layer, our ME output would look like this. When referring to downstream and upstream keys, what is the stream? With vision mixing, the video signals are thought of as a fluid stream from the various inputs, through the framework of the mixer, and eventually to the outputs. When keys are used within that stream, it's important to differentiate what is happening before the main background layer, and then also after it too. Upstream would be any keys used in the mix effect or ME buses. Downstream would be any keys used after the main background layer. The TriCaster 8000 has 8 ME buses, each with its own background, 4 keys, and fade to black layers. These MEs output into the Vision Mixer as sources alongside the analog and digital video inputs, the DDRs, GFX and buffers, and network sources, all to be used as possible sources for the main layer, as well as sources for other MEs. The resultant signal is then switched to the main background layer, which again has 4 keys and a fade to black layer, which gets passed on to the physical hardware outputs of the TriCaster as your program feed. I hope you found this video helpful. As with all other videos in this series, I would strongly recommend viewing this in front of a TriCaster system to practice these concepts. Please check out our NewTek TriCaster TC8000 YouTube playlist for more videos on using the TriCaster.